The courthouse steps felt colder than Chioma Okafor expected on that humid Lagos afternoon. She clutched her handbag tighter, the divorce papers inside burning like hot coals against her side. 3 years of marriage, erased in 45 minutes by a judge who barely looked at her. Mrs. Okafor, her lawyer, corrected himself. Not Nwachukwu anymore. The name change hit her like a slap. She was no longer part of the prestigious Nwachukwu family, no longer the wife of Obinna Nwachukwu, Nigeria's most celebrated young billionaire. She was just Chioma again, discarded, humiliated, branded as Barren before Lagos's elite society. Behind her, she could hear the whispers. The journalists had gathered like vultures, cameras flashing as she descended the steps. The Barren wife finally let go. One voice carried over the noise. At least he can have heirs now with someone fertile. Chioma's best friend, Ngozi, gripped her elbow. Don't listen to them. Hold your head high. But how could she? Everyone believed the narrative Obinna's family had carefully constructed, that she was a problem, that her womb was empty, incapable of giving the Nwachukwu heir his birthright. Not once did anyone consider that perhaps Obinna was the one with issues. She remembered their last conversation in the mansion they'd shared, his cold eyes refusing to meet hers. My mother is right, Chioma. 3 years without a child. What else am I supposed to think? Adiz is already pregnant. She's proven she can give me what you couldn't. The betrayal still felt fresh. While she'd been taking fertility treatments, enduring painful procedures and hormone injections, Obinna had been sleeping with Adiz Okoro, the daughter of his father's business partner, a woman who'd hated Chioma from the moment Obinna chose a village girl over Lagos' society darlings. Take me to Ngozi's place, Chioma told her driver, one of the few staff members who'd remained loyal. I can't go back to that house. As the car pulled away from the courthouse, Chioma watched Lagos blur past her window. Somewhere in the city, Obinna was probably celebrating his freedom, planning his quick wedding to Adiz, already shopping for nurseries and baby clothes. He'd moved on so easily, as if their love had meant nothing. She pressed a hand to her stomach, feeling the slight queasiness she'd been experiencing for weeks. Stress, she'd told herself. The emotional toll of watching her marriage crumble. But last night, alone in the guest room of the mansion, a terrifying thought had struck her. Ngozi, she whispered as they reached her friend's modest apartment in Acadia. I need to go to a pharmacy. 2 hours later, Chioma sat on the bathroom floor, 3 positive pregnancy tests lined up on the tiles before her. Pregnant. After 3 years of negative results, of tears and prayers and disappointment, she was finally pregnant, and the father, her ex-husband, had already moved on to another woman. She laughed, a broken sound that turned into sobs. The irony was devastating. Obinna had called her barren, divorced her for her supposed inability to conceive, and now she carried his children. Yes, children, plural. The doctor she'd secretly visited that morning had confirmed it with an ultrasound. Twins. What are you going to do? Ngozi asked, kneeling beside her. Chioma looked at her friend, then at the positive test, and finally at her own reflection in the mirror. Her eyes, puffy from weeks of crying, held something new. Not hope exactly, but determination. I'm leaving Lagos, she said quietly. My cousin Adana lives in London. She's been asking me to visit for years. I'll go there, have my babies, and build a new life. Obinna made his choice. He chose Adiz and the child she's carrying. He doesn't get to know about mine. But Chioma, these are his children. No. Chioma's voice turned to steel. He lost the right to call them his when he called me Barren in front of his family. When he believed his mother's lies over 3 years of my love. These babies are mine. Mine alone. She stood up, wiping her tears, and walked to the window. Somewhere across Lagos, Obinna Nwachukwu was probably toasting to his new beginning, oblivious of the life he'd abandoned and the 2 lives now growing without his knowledge. Let him have his perfect new wife, Chioma whispered. I'll raise these children to be stronger than any Nwachukwu, and one day, when I'm ready, I'll return to Lagos and show him exactly what he lost. A billionaire divorces his wife, calling her barren, and marries another woman, But what he doesn't know is that his ex-wife just discovered she's pregnant with twins. Can you imagine finding out you're carrying the children of the man who just publicly humiliated you? If you're already invested in Chioma's story, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Drop a comment below. What would you do if you were Chioma? Would you tell him about the twins or keep them secret? Next chapter shows how Chioma transforms from a broken divorced woman into a powerful fashion mogul in London. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. 5 years later, London, United Kingdom. Mummy, Kamsi took my toy car again. Kelechi's voice rang through the spacious townhouse in Chelsea. Chioma smiled from her home office, where fabric samples and design sketches covered every surface. Kamsi Okafor, sharing is caring. But Mummy, I had it first. 5-year-old Kamsi protested, her thick braids bouncing as she ran into the office, identical to her twin brother in every way except gender, the same deep brown eyes, the same sharp intelligence, the same stubborn chin they'd inherited from their father, a father they'd never met. Chioma scooped both children onto her lap, breathing in their innocent scent. What have I told you about fighting? That twins are a team. They chorused together, then giggled. Exactly. Now go play nicely. Auntie Adana is coming over soon, and she's bringing your favorite chin-chin. As the children scampered away, Chioma returned to her designs. Her fashion line, Chioma Couture, had taken London by storm over the past 3 years. What started as a small online shop selling African print dresses had exploded into a full fashion house with celebrity clients, runway shows, and a flagship store in Knightsbridge. She poured all her pain into building something beautiful. Every rejection, every memory of Obinna's betrayal, every night she cried herself to sleep, all of it had fueled her determination to succeed, not just for herself, but for Kamsi and Kelechi. They would never know poverty, never know the shame she'd endured. Her phone buzzed. A message from her business manager. Emergency. Call me SAP. Chioma's heart sank as she dialed. Tun, what's wrong? It's not wrong, it's incredible. Tun's excitement crackled through the line. Remember that Lagos Fashion Week pitch we submitted 3 months ago? We won. They want Chioma Couture to headline the closing show in 6 weeks. This would open up the entire West Africa market for us. The room seemed to tilt. Lagos, the city she fled from 5 years ago, swearing never to return until she was ready. Was she ready? Chioma, are you there? Yes, she breathed. Yes, I'm here. Tell them. Tell them we accept. After hanging up, Chioma walked to her bedroom and opened the bottom drawer of her dresser. Beneath layers of clothing lay a small box she hadn't opened in years. Inside were the remnants of her old life. Her wedding ring, a photo from her marriage to Obinna, and a newspaper clipping from 5 years ago. The headline read, Billionaire Obinna Nwachukwu weds Adiz Okoro in Lagos's wedding of the decade. She studied Obinna's face in the photo. He looked happy, triumphant even, with Adiz's hand possessively on his arm, her pregnant belly prominently displayed. That marriage should have destroyed Chioma. Instead, it had forged her into someone stronger. Mummy, Kamsi appeared in the doorway. Why are you looking at pictures? Chioma quickly closed the box. Just remembering, my love. Remembering what? Remembering who I used to be, so I never forget who I become. Kamsi climbed onto the bed, her small face serious. Mummy, why don't we have a daddy like the other kids at school? The question Chioma had been dreading. She pulled her daughter close. Because your daddy made some choices before you were born. But you and Kelechi have something better. You have a mummy who loves you more than the whole world. Will we ever meet him? Chioma looked at her daughter, seeing so much of Obinna in her features, and made a decision. Soon, baby. Very soon. That evening, after the twins were asleep, Adana came over with wine and advice. Are you sure about this, Chioma? Going back to Lagos means risking everything you've built here. I'm not the same woman who left, Chioma said, sipping her wine. I'm not running anymore. Lagos Fashion Week is the perfect opportunity. I'll showcase my designs, expand my business, and yes, I'll face Obinna. He deserves to know he has children. They deserve to know their father. Even after what he did to you, especially after what he did to me. Because when he sees what I've become, when he meets the incredible children he abandoned without knowing they existed, he'll understand the magnitude of his mistake. Chioma's eyes hardened. I'm not going back for revenge, Adana. I'm going back to reclaim my narrative. Lagos will remember me as the barren wife, Obinna divorced. I'm going to show them the thriving mother and successful businesswoman he lost. Adana raised her glass. To returning home a queen. To returning home on my own terms, Chioma corrected. Over the next few weeks, Chioma prepared for the trip with military precision. She expanded her design team, finalized her collection, and had numerous conversations with Kamsi and Kelechi about their heritage, about Lagos, about the possibility of meeting extended family. Are we going to meet Grandma? Kelechi asked excitedly during one conversation. Chioma thought of Mama Nwachukwu, the woman who'd orchestrated her humiliation. Perhaps. We'll see. The night before their flight, Chioma stood in her children's room, watching them sleep. Tomorrow, everything would change. She was bringing Obinna's children back to Lagos, not as a plea for reconciliation, but as proof of her triumph. She'd left Lagos broken and branded as barren. She was returning as a force to be reckoned with. She'd built an empire. Chioma went from being a humiliated divorced woman to owning a successful fashion house in London with her 5-year-old twins. But now she's been invited to headline Lagos Fashion Week, which means going back to face the man who destroyed her. This is about to get explosive. If you're excited to see what happens when Chioma returns to Lagos, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Comment below, do you think Obinna will recognize his own children when he sees them? Next chapter is a reunion you've been waiting for, and trust me, it's intense. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss it. Share this with someone who loves comeback stories. Murtala Muhammad International Airport buzzed with the chaos Chioma remembered. The heat, the noise, the unmistakable energy of Lagos. She held Kamsi's and Kelechi's hands tightly as they navigated through customs, her heart pounding with each step deeper into the city that had once rejected her. Mummy, it's so hot. Kelechi complained, tugging at his shirt. Welcome to Lagos, my darling. Chioma laughed, though anxiety coursed through her veins. A driver from the Fashion Week organizing committee waited outside with a sign bearing her company name. As they drove through Lagos, past the familiar streets, the markets, the luxury hotels, Chioma saw her children's eyes widen with wonder. They'd heard stories about Nigeria, but experiencing it was different. Is this where you grew up, Mummy? Kamsi asked. Not far from here, Chioma replied, memories flooding back. I'll show you one day. The committee had booked her a suite at the Eco Hotel, with a stunning view of the Atlantic Ocean. As they settled in, Chioma's phone rang. Tund, her business manager. Boss! There's been a development. The welcome cocktail tonight. Obinna Nwachukwu is one of the sponsors. His company, Nwachukwu Industries, is actually the primary sponsor of Lagos Fashion Week. Chioma's blood ran cold. What? I just found out. Apparently, they sponsor it every year. There's a good chance he'll be at tonight's event. Should I make an excuse for you not to attend? Chioma looked at her reflection in the mirror. Elegant, confident, successful. No, I'll be there. It's time. She'd planned to control their reunion, to orchestrate it on her terms. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. That evening, Chioma chose a stunning emerald green gown from her own collection, her locks styled in an elaborate updo. She looked powerful, radiant. Nothing like the broken woman who'd left Lagos 5 years ago. Adana, who'd flown in from London to support her, watched the twins while Chioma attended the cocktail. The venue was the Oriental Hotel's grand ballroom, glittering with Lagos's fashion elite, designers, models, and business moguls. Chioma held her head high as she entered, feeling the eyes turn toward her. Some recognized her immediately. Whispers spread like wildfire. Is that Chioma Okafor? The one Obinna divorced? No, it can't be. Look at her. She smiled graciously, networking with designers and buyers, discussing her collection, acting as if she belonged in this space. Because she did. The girl who'd been discarded had become a woman who commanded respect. And then, across the room, she saw him. Obinna Nwachukwu stood near the bar, older, his face more careworn than she remembered. He wore an expensive suit, but there was a weariness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Next to him stood Adiz, dripping in jewelry, her face pinched and perpetually dissatisfied. Their eyes met. Time seemed to freeze. Chioma watched his recognition dawn on Obinna's face. Shock, disbelief, and something that looked painfully like regret. His drink slipped slightly in his hand, and he steadied it, never breaking eye contact. Adiz noticed his distraction and followed his gaze. When she saw Chioma, her face contorted with fury and something else, fear. Chioma smiled, cool, composed, and turned back to her conversation with French buyer, though her heart hammered against her ribs. Let him come to her. Let him make the first move. She didn't have to wait long. Chioma, his voice, deeper than she remembered, sent shivers down her spine. She turned slowly, as if she hadn't been hyper-aware of his approach. Obinna, what a surprise. Her voice was honey over ice. Up close, she could see the changes more clearly. The lines around his eyes, the gray threading through his hair at the temples, the hollow look of a man who wasn't sleeping well. I didn't know you were back in Lagos, he stammered, so different from the confident man who divorced her. I'm here for business. My fashion line is headlining the closing show. She said it simply, letting the achievement speak for itself. Your fashion line? His eyes widened. Chioma Couture, that's yours? I've seen it in magazines. It's incredible. Thank you. I've been quite fortunate. She took a sip of her champagne. And you? How is married life? The question was a blade wrapped in silk. Obinna flinched. We're... Obinna! Adiz appeared, latching onto his arm like a barnacle. There you are. We need to speak with the event coordinator. She turned to Chioma with a fake smile that didn't reach her eyes. Chioma, still trying to cling to relevance, I see. Chioma laughed, a genuine, amused sound that made Adiz's smile falter. Adiz, you look exactly the same. How comfortable for you. Come, Obinna. Adiz tugged at his arm, but his eyes remained fixed on Chioma. You look different, he said quietly. Happy. I am happy, Chioma replied. I have everything I ever wanted. More than I ever dreamed possible, actually. Chioma, he started, but Adiz pulled harder. We really must go. As they walked away, Obinna glanced back 3 times. Chioma felt a surge of satisfaction, mixed with unexpected pain. Seeing him again brought back memories, both beautiful and agonizing. Her phone buzzed. A message from Adana with a photo. Kamsi and Kelechi asleep on the hotel couch, looking angelic. Your babies? Asked a voice. Chioma turned to find an older woman with kind eyes, one of the event sponsors. Yes, Chioma said, showing the photo proudly. My twins. They're 5. Beautiful children. They have your eyes. And their father must be quite handsome, too. Chioma smiled cryptically. He was, once upon a time. Across the room, she caught Obinna staring again. This time, their eyes held for a long moment before he turned away, leaving the event with Adiz clinging to his arm and complaining loudly. What Obinna didn't know was that tomorrow, during the official Lagos Fashion Week opening ceremony, Chioma would be introducing her children to the Lagos fashion community. And when he saw Kamsi and Kelechi, when he saw his own features reflected in their faces, the real reckoning would begin. Chioma finished her champagne and smiled. The game had only just begun. They saw each other. The look on Obinna's face when he realized Chioma is now a successful fashion designer was priceless. But he has no idea she has his children. Tomorrow at the opening ceremony, he's going to see the twins for the first time, and everything is about to explode. If your heart is racing right now, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Comment below what do you think Obinna will do when he sees the twins? Will he recognize them immediately? Next chapter 4 is a confrontation we've all been waiting for, and it's going to be dramatic. Turn on notifications because you do not want to miss what happens next. Share this story with your friends. The Lagos Fashion Week opening ceremony was pure spectacle. Models, designers, celebrities, and business moguls gathered at the Eco Convention Center. Chioma sat in the VIP section, Kamsi and Kelechi beside her in matching traditional Nigerian attire. She dressed them in beautifully tailored agbada for Kelechi and a stunning Ankara dress for Kamsi. They looked like royalty. "Mummy, everyone is looking at us," Kamsi whispered. "Let them look, darling. You're beautiful." What Chioma hadn't anticipated was that Obinna would be seated 3 rows behind her. She felt his gaze burning into the back of her head from the moment she sat down. She deliberately arrived after him, making an entrance with her children. The ceremony began with speeches from sponsors. When Obinna took the stage to speak on behalf of Nwachukwu Industries, his eyes kept drifting to where Chioma sat and to the 2 children beside her. She saw the exact moment his brain started making connections, the way his speech faltered slightly, the way he gripped the podium. From her peripheral vision, she could see him studying Kelechi's profile, the strong jawline, the distinctive brow, features that were unmistakably Nwachukwu. When Kamsi turned to whisper something to her mother, Obinna's face drained of color. He knew, or at least he suspected, after the speeches. During the networking break, Chioma intentionally walked to the crowd with her children, introducing them to industry colleagues. The whispers started immediately. "Those are her children? They look just like..." "No, it couldn't be. The timeline. But look at them." Obinna approached like a man in a trance. Adiz tried to hold him back, her face twisted with rage, but he shook her off. "Chioma," his voice cracked, "I need to speak with you. Privately. I'm with my children, Obinna. Whatever you have to say can be said here." He looked down at Kamsi and Kelechi, and Chioma watched him truly see them for the first time. The resemblance was undeniable. They had his eyes, his bone structure, even his stubborn expression. "How old are they?" he asked hoarsely. 5. They just turned 5 2 months ago." Chioma's voice was steady, but her heart raced. Obinna did the math quickly. His face went from white to gray. "Chioma, are they?" "Say hello to Mr. Nwachukwu, children," Chioma said calmly. "Good afternoon, sir," the twins chorused politely. "Oh, God," Obinna breathed, reaching out as if to touch them, then pulling back. "They're mine. These are my children." The words, spoken aloud, rippled through the nearby crowd. Cameras flashed. People gasped. This was the scandal Lagos had been waiting for. "Lies!" Adiz shrieked, pushing forward. "She's lying, Obinna. She's just trying to trap you again with some random children." Chioma's eyes turned to ice. "Random children? Look at them, Adiz. Even you aren't blind enough to deny what's obvious. When were you planning to tell me?" Obinna's voice shook with emotion. Anger, joy, devastation, all mixed together. "How could you keep this from me for 5 years?" "Tell you?" Chioma's voice rose for the first time. "Tell the man who divorced me and called me Barren in front of all of Lagos? The man who was already planning his wedding to another woman before our divorce was even finalized? Tell me, Obinna, when exactly should I have informed you? Before or after you celebrated your new wife's pregnancy?" The crowd was silent now, everyone leaning in to hear every word of the confrontation. "I found out I was pregnant the day of our divorce," Chioma continued, her voice breaking slightly. "The same day you signed papers to end our marriage. The same day you called me Barren. I was pregnant with your twins. Obinna, twins. But you'd already chosen Adiz and her child, so I chose to raise mine alone. You had no right." Obinna shouted, "These are my children. You stole 5 years from me. I stole nothing." Chioma shot back. "You threw me away like garbage. You believe your mother's lies. You trusted Adiz's schemes over 3 years of my loyalty. I gave you everything, and you gave me divorce papers and humiliation. Forgive me if I didn't feel inclined to share the miracle you called impossible. Mummy," Kelechi's small voice cut through the tension. "Why is that man yelling at you?" Chioma immediately softened, kneeling beside her children. "It's okay, baby. Why don't you and Kamsi go with Annie Ngozi to get some snacks?" Ngozi, who'd been hovering nearby, quickly ushered the confused children away from the scene. Once they were gone, Obinna seemed to deflate. Please, Chioma, we need to talk about this properly. Those are my children. Biologically, yes, Chioma said coldly. In every other way that matters, they're mine. I carried them, birthed them, raised them, fed them, comforted them when they cried, taught them to walk and talk and love. Where were you? I didn't know. Because you didn't wait. You didn't trust. You didn't love me enough to fight for our marriage. Tears finally spilled down Chioma's cheeks. You broke me. Obinna, you took everything from me. My home, my dignity, my place in society. The only thing you didn't take was my womb, and that's only because you thought it was useless. Obinna looked shattered. I was wrong. God, Chioma, I was so wrong. My mother, Adiz, they manipulated everything. The fertility reports were falsified. I found out 2 years ago that the problem was never you, it was me. A temporary condition caused by stress and medication. It resolved itself, but by then you'd already destroyed our marriage for nothing, Chioma finished. Well, congratulations. I hope it was worth it. She turned to walk away, but Obinna grabbed her arm gently. Please, give me a chance to know them, to be their father. I'll do whatever it takes. Chioma looked at his hand on her arm, then at his face. Seeing real anguish there, part of her wanted to twist the knife deeper, to deny him as he denied her. But another part, the part that had loved him once, saw her children's faces and knew they deserved the truth. This isn't about you and me anymore, Obinna, she said quietly. It's about Kamsi and Kelechi. They deserve to know their father, their heritage, their family. But understand this. You will earn their love. You will prove you've changed. And you will never, ever make them feel the way you made me feel. Do you understand? Yes. Anything. Thank you, Chioma. Thank you. As Chioma walked away to find her children, she heard Adiz's shrill voice behind her. You're choosing her bastards over me? Over our marriage? We don't have children, Adiz. Obinna's voice roared back. That pregnancy you claimed 5 years ago, you lied. You've lied about everything. Chioma didn't stay to hear more. She had her children to comfort and a future to navigate. The past had finally caught up with her, and now she had to decide. Could she let Obinna back into her life for the sake of Kamsi and Kelechi? Or would doing so risk the peace she'd fought so hard to build? It happened. Obinna discovered the twins, and the entire Lagos fashion community witnessed the explosive confrontation. He now knows he abandoned his own children, and that his mother and Adiz manipulated everything. Can you imagine the guilt he must feel right now? If you're feeling all the emotions, smash that like button and subscribe to AfricanTales by Zion. Drop a comment, what should Chioma do now? Should she forgive Obinna or keep him at a distance? The final chapter will show you if this broken family can heal and if Obinna can prove he's changed. Turn on notifications because next chapter is the powerful conclusion you need to see. Share this story with everyone. 3 weeks had passed since the explosive revelation at Lagos Fashion Week. The story had dominated Nigerian social media and gossip blogs. Billionaire's ex-wife returns with secret twins. Headlines proclaimed Chioma a wronged woman vindicated, while Obinna became the cautionary tale of a man who lost everything chasing the wrong dream. Chioma's fashion show had been triumph, but the personal aftermath was complex. She'd agreed to let Obinna meet the twins properly, supervised visits in neutral locations where Kamsi and Kelechi could get to know their father without pressure. Today marked their 4th meeting at a private children's museum Obinna had rented for the afternoon. Chioma watched from a bench as Obinna showed Kelechi how to build a model bridge, while Kamsi peppered him with questions about aerodynamics. They're so brilliant, Obinna said, sitting beside Chioma while the children explored an exhibit. Kelechi has my analytical mind, and Kamsi has your creative spirit. They're perfect, Chioma agreed softly. I've filed for divorce from Adiz, Obinna said suddenly. The marriage was a sham from the beginning. She admitted she faked the pregnancy 5 years ago to trap me. My mother... He paused, pain crossing his face. My mother orchestrated everything. She paid doctors to falsify your fertility reports, convinced me you were the problem, pushed Adiz into my life. She's been eaten alive by guilt ever since. She wants to see you, to apologize. Chioma's jaw tightened. I don't know if I can face her yet. I understand. But she's sick, Chioma. Heart problems. The guilt has literally been killing her. She knows she destroyed our marriage. Destroyed 5 years of me knowing my children. She wants to make amends before. He couldn't finish. Before it's too late, Chioma whispered. She thought of Kamsi and Kelechi, who deserve to know their grandmother, despite everything. I'll think about it. Daddy, come see. Kamsi called, and Chioma's heart clenched at how easily the word came to her daughter now. Over the following week, something unexpected happened. Chioma began to heal, not through forgetting or forgiving easily, but through watching her children experience the joy of having a father who was trying desperately to make up for lost time. Obinna showed up for every scheduled visit early. He learned their favorite foods, their fears, their dreams. He read parenting books, attended therapy sessions to deal with his guilt, and proved through consistent action that he was committed to being the father Kamsi and Kelechi deserved. But it was the evening he came to Chioma's hotel suite, where she'd extended her stay, that everything changed. I'm not asking you, forgive me, Obinna said, standing at her door looking humble and broken in a way she'd never seen him. I'm not asking you to take me back or to forget what I did. I'm asking for the chance to prove that I've learned from my mistakes. Not just as a father, but as a man. Obinna, please let me finish. He took a shaky breath. 5 years ago, I was a coward. I let my mother manipulate me. I let society's expectations dictate my choices. And I betrayed the only woman who ever loved me for who I was, not what I had. I called you Barren when you were the most fertile blessing in my life. You gave me love, loyalty, and 2 incredible children I didn't deserve to know. Tears streamed down his face. I lost everything, Chioma. My business is failing because I lost my passion. My marriage was a nightmare because it was built on lies. My mother is dying from guilt. I wake up every day knowing I threw away the one real thing I had for an illusion. But the worst part is knowing that my children grew up without me because I was too blind and stupid to cherish what I had. Chioma felt her own tears falling. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know that I see it now. I see what I lost. I see what you became without me. Stronger, more successful, more amazing than I ever imagined. You didn't need me to thrive. But His voice broke. I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so profoundly sorry. And if you'll allow me, I want to spend the rest of my life proving that I'm not that man anymore. What are you asking me, Obinna? I'm asking for a chance. Not to go back to what we had. I know that's impossible. But to build something new. To co-parent our children with respect and love. And maybe, if you can ever see your way clear to it, to let me earn your trust again. Not as your husband, not as your partner, but as someone who recognizes your worth and will never take it for granted again. Before Chioma could respond, small footsteps interrupted them. Kamsi and Kelechi appeared, rubbing sleepy eyes. Mummy, is Daddy leaving? Kelechi asked, why is Daddy crying? Kamsi added, concerned. Obinna knelt down, wiping his eyes. Daddy is crying because he's happy to have you both in his life. And because he's telling Mummy he's sorry for some mistakes he made a long time ago. Did you say sorry properly? Kamsi asked seriously. When I hurt Kelechi, you told me I have to say sorry and mean it and show it with actions. Obinna laughed through his tears. You're right. I'm trying to show it with actions. Is Mummy going to forgive you? Kelechi asked. Both children turned their expectant eyes to Chioma. She looked at them, her beautiful, brilliant babies who now had a father actively trying to be better for them. She looked at Obinna, broken, humbled, but genuine in his remorse. And she looked at herself, no longer the destroyed woman who'd fled Lagos, but someone who had built herself back stronger. Forgiveness is a process, she said slowly. It takes time. But I think we can start building something new. For Kamsi and Kelechi. And maybe, eventually for us too. The hope that blazed in Obinna's eyes was almost painful to witness. Thank you, Chioma. I won't let you down again. I promise. Promises are easy, she said gently. Show me through your actions. Every single day for the rest of my life. 6 months later, Chioma stood in the garden of the Nwachukwu family estate. She finally agreed to visit Mama Nwachukwu, who was frail but determined to make amends. The older woman had wept, had begged forgiveness, had admitted her terrible mistakes. It hadn't been easy, but with Obinna and the twins present, they'd begun the long process of healing. Chioma had decided to split her time between London and Lagos. Her fashion business thrived in both cities, and the twins were adjusting beautifully to their dual heritage. They spent weekends with Obinna, who had transformed into a devoted father, attending school plays, helping with homework, teaching them about their Igbo culture. As for her relationship with Obinna, it was complicated but hopeful. They weren't rushing into anything romantic. Instead, they were rebuilding friendship, trust, and respect. They went to family therapy together, attended the twins' activities as a united front, and slowly, carefully, explored whether the love they'd once shared could be rekindled into something even stronger. "Mummy, Grandma wants to show us the old photo albums." Kamsi called from the veranda. Chioma smiled, watching her children run toward the house where their grandmother waited. She felt Obinna's presence beside her before he spoke. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for giving us all a second chance." "Thank you for earning it," she replied, and for the first time in 6 years, she took his hand willingly. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still wounds to heal, trust to rebuild, and a future to navigate. But as she stood in the garden with the man who had broken her and the children who had saved her, Chioma realized something profound. She had returned to Lagos not to reclaim her past, but to create her future. And this time, she was doing it on her own terms, with her head held high and her heart open to the possibility of redemption, not just for Obinna, but for herself, for forgiveness, and for the family they were slowly, beautifully rebuilding together. The Barren wife had returned as a queen, and her kingdom was just beginning. The grand ballroom of the Eco Hotel glittered with lights as Lagos's elite gathered for the annual Chioma Couture fashion show. But this year was special. It was also the official launch of the Nwachukwu Okafor Foundation for Women's Empowerment, a charity organization co-founded by Chioma and Obinna to support divorced and single mothers building businesses. 7-year-old Kamsi and Kalechi sat in the front row, dressed impeccably, waving at their mother backstage. Beside them sat Mama Nwachukwu, healthier now and devoted to her grandchildren, and Obinna, who couldn't take his eyes off his ex-wife as she prepared for the show. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed, "please welcome the creative director of Chioma Couture and co-founder of our foundation, Chioma Okafor Nwachukwu." The crowd erupted in applause as Chioma stepped onto the stage in a stunning gold gown of her own design. She was radiant, powerful, every inch the success story Lagos loved to celebrate. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steady and strong. 7 years ago, I left the city broken, humiliated, and labeled as barren. I returned 5 years later as a mother, a businesswoman, and a woman who refused to let someone else's narrative define her worth. She paused, her eyes finding Obinna's in the crowd. "This foundation exists because I know what it's like to be discarded, to be told you're not enough, to have to rebuild from nothing. But I also know what it's like to rise, to reclaim your power, and to turn your pain into purpose. Every woman deserves that chance." The applause was thunderous. As Chioma left the stage, Obinna met her backstage with a single rose, their tradition now, his way of showing appreciation for her strength. "You were magnificent," he said, his eyes full of love and respect. "We were magnificent," she corrected, gesturing to the foundation's banner with both their names. "Mummy, Daddy, the show is starting." The twins ran up, grabbing both their parent hands. As they walked back to their seats as a family, Chioma reflected on the journey. She and Obinna had remarried 6 months ago in a small, intimate ceremony, nothing like the extravagant wedding of their youth. This time, it was built on truth, hard-won trust, and genuine partnership. They were equals now, not just in name, but in every way that mattered. Obinna had rebuilt his business with Chioma as his advisor, incorporating ethical practices and women's empowerment into the company's mission. Adiz had disappeared from Lagos society after the divorce scandal, and Chioma had long since stopped thinking about her. The fashion show began, and Chioma's latest collection graced the runway, each piece telling a story of transformation, resilience, and rebirth. The collection was called Barren Land Blooms, a reclamation of the word that had once been used to shame her. As the final model walked, and the crowd rose to its feet in standing ovation, Obinna leaned over and whispered, "I love you, and I will spend every day proving I'm worthy of that love." Chioma turned to him, her eyes bright with tears of joy rather than pain. "I love you too. But remember, I didn't need you to bloom. I chose to let you grow beside me. And I'm grateful every single day that you did," he replied. Kamsi and Kalechi squealed with delight as their mother took her final bow on stage, and Chioma looked out at her life, her thriving business, her beautiful children, her rebuilt marriage, her healed heart, and smiled. She had been called barren, but she had borne fruit beyond measure. Not just children, but strength, success, and a story that would inspire countless women to never let anyone else define their worth. The girl who had been discarded had become the woman who could never be forgotten, and she had done it all while remaining true to herself. The end. They did it. After all the pain, betrayal, and heartbreak, Chioma and Obinna rebuilt their family and remarried. She transformed from a humiliated divorced woman called Barren into a fashion mogul, a devoted mother, and a woman who proved that your value is not determined by those who couldn't see it. Can you believe this journey? From divorce papers to twins to a second chance at love. If this story touched your soul, smash that like button right now and subscribe to African Tales by Zion. Drop a comment below. What was your favorite moment in this entire story? Was it when Chioma returned to Lagos? When Obinna discovered the twins? Or the final redemption? Share this powerful story with every woman who needs to know she can rise from the ashes. Turn on notifications because we have more incredible African stories coming your way. Thank you for watching African Tales by Zion, where every story touches the soul and reminds you of your worth.